Each year when we roll the Torah to this week's portion, Korach, I think of Dr. Bernice Elkin, a retired psychiatrist of blessed memory who celebrated her bat mitzvah as an adult decades ago when I was a young rabbi. The Torah portion tells of Korach's revolt against his first cousins, Moses and Aaron, exclaiming, "You have gone too far, for all the community are holy, all of them, and Adonai is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourself above the congregation of Adonai?" As she gave her Devar Torah, her bat mitzvah speech, Dr. Elkin suggested that Korach had a point. Moses had indeed been too high and mighty. She proposed that Moses benefited from the rebellion and its critiqued, is shaping him into the leader needed for decades of desert wandering. Writing this week, Rabbi Jacob Chatnova agrees. Throughout the book of Numbers, the people voice their needs, and Moses consistently seems to react with frustration and without due empathy. For example, when the people complain about the lack of variety in their daily desert diet of manna, Moses fetches to God, referring to the Israelites as the burden that God has laid upon him. Worse is Moses' reaction to the people when they suddenly have no water. God instructs Moses to speak to a rock, and the water will flow. Instead, Moses screams at the people, calling them rebels, and smashes his staff on the rock, making it look like he, not God, provides the water. Might Moses have been more empathetic with the people who fear they may die of dehydration? When Dr. Elkin's bat mitzvah service concluded on that Shabbat morning all those years ago, I was approached by a very angry couple, guests of the bat mitzvah whom I did not know. "How dare I," they ask, "permit Bernice to defame Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our sainted rabbi, in the sacred precincts of a synagogue? Moses," they told me, "was entirely without fault." I don't recall how I responded. I was worried about Dr. Elkin, but she was not at all bothered by her guests' outrage as I imagined. I just wanted them to leave. I do know what I thought. Moses isn't perfect. Even God seems to agree. After Moses screams at the people and strikes the rock, God punishes him. Moses will not be permitted to lead the people into the promised land, but will die on the far side of the Jordan. Humans instinctively want our heroes to be perfect and our villains to be thoroughly evil. Think, for example, of the way many Americans view President Trump. For many of his supporters, he can do absolutely nothing wrong. For an equal percentage of his detractors, he never does anything right. Neither is true. God says to Abraham, "Walk before me and be perfect." God does not tell our patriarch that he is perfect, but that he should be perfect. That is, Abraham's goal in serving God is to strive toward perfection. God's overarching command is, "You shall be holy, for I, Adonai, your God, am holy." Our role in this world is to perform mitzvot, religious obligations, to bring God's creation closer to perfection. Only God is intrinsically holy, and Moses, not Moses or any of the rest of us. Moses had work to do to improve his behavior, as do we all. When I was in youth group, we would sing "Fire and Rain" by James Taylor as part of the Friendship Circle song session at the conclusion of each gathering. Trouble for a Jewish youth group comes with the line that begins, "Won't you look down upon me, Jesus?" Youth groupers would shout out "Moses" in place of Jesus. It was all in fun, but it was a mistake for a number of reasons. Yes, it was disrespectful to Christianity and the songwriter, but for our purposes tonight, the problem was that while Moses and Jesus have parallel roles in the Jewish and Christian redemption story, They are otherwise dissimilar. Moses is God's primary human agent of redemption in the Exodus, while Jesus is God's primary human agent of salvation in the Passion and Resurrection. Moses, though, is always human and consequently flawed. By contrast, Christianity understands Jesus to be God incarnate, that is, in the flesh, and therefore perfect. There is a profound message in Moses' imperfection. When God first appears to him in the burning bush, calling him to go to Pharaoh, proclaiming, "Let my people go," Moses tries to evade and decline the invitation. He claims that he is not up to the task. The people won't listen to him. He's a poor public speaker. In short, he is imperfect and therefore unfit for the task. God has none of it. God makes clear that the choice is final, but God does not dispute that Moses is imperfect. Instead, God provides what Rabbi Lauren Tuckman calls a reasonable accommodation, acknowledging Moses' speech impediment and sending Aaron to do the talking for Moses. Yes, God seems to say, Moses is imperfect, making him perfect for the task. The Exodus is Judaism's ancient and best known redemption story, but it is not our promise of salvation. Instead, our tradition teaches that still greater redemption is yet to come, a messianic dream of a perfect future. Sages of the Talmud suggested that everyone has a role in bringing that ultimate redemption. Specifically, they taught that should every Jewish person observe one Shabbat perfectly 2 weeks in a row, messianic redemption will follow. They did not say every righteous Jew, and they certainly didn't say every Jew who does not sin. Everyone can be part of bringing the world closer to redemption. Most people's opinions of themselves are either too high or too low, most often both. We believe ourselves to be good, even great, so there's nothing more we must do for others, for the poor, for marginalized individuals and communities, for our loved ones at their times of trouble. By contrast, all too aware of our faults, we may imagine ourselves too tainted to perform mitzvot to make the world a better place. The example of Moses, with all his flaws, offers us a profound two-part lesson. One, none of us is so great we can't do better. We have work to do, and it begins with ourselves. We have a duty to bring our best selves to the other people in our lives, to our community, to humanity, and ultimately to God. Then, like Moses, we will be best equipped to go to the pharaohs of today, crying out for the freedom of all God's people. 2, none of us is so sinful that we are disqualified from doing our part to make the world a better place. Perhaps then Korach, the rebel of our Torah portion, is a metaphor, the voice inside us telling us that we are no good, that we are unworthy of partnering with God to bring a perfect future, a voice we must repel. None of us is too good for God, and neither are we impermissibly inadequate. Instead, each of us has the power to raise our voices, to roll up our sleeves, to open our pocketbooks, to give of ourselves. The mitzvot, our religious obligations, are our responsibility and our privilege to bring all the world to the realization of God's greatest promise, the promise of peace. Amen.